Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryankaravavahe, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome to Chapter 12, Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yoga, the topic of devotion. And this is a popular chapter because it offers lots of opportunities for connecting with Ishvara. And that is a beautiful relationship. In fact, it's the most beautiful relationship that you could ever develop, because you cannot quite develop a relationship with awareness. So you develop a relationship with Ishvara, whose truth is awareness. So to devote to Ishvara, you're not excluding the final truth. And thereby, we will now see, first of all, what is the connection of the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas and the Upanishads. Where does Bhagavad Gita fit in all of this? In fact, let's go from the beginning. Let's ask a question. Suppose you say, what does it mean to study Vedanta? Simple question. It's like asking, what does it mean to study mathematics? What does it mean to study physics? What does it mean to study Buddhism? What does it mean to study psychology? It's a valid question. And the answer to that will really determine how much you kind of connect to that field. Okay? What does it mean to be a human being? Okay, so it's a simple question, but it really introduces us to the whole topic. And I want to start by saying that the word Vedanta is two words, okay? The first word, if you say Veda, Anta, Vedanta. What does it mean to study Vedanta? Vedanta. It's actually a long A. So the word consists of two words, and the first word is Veda. Okay? Veda is a four-letter word, and it just generally means the book of knowledge. So what kind of knowledge? Well, we've got two kinds of knowledges. We've got knowledge on how to manage your life, and we also got philosophical knowledge. So some of us need more kind of ritual kind of knowledge, how to perform things around the house, how to have a successful family. There's a ritual before having a child. The two parents, or to-be parents, they will perform the ritual. There is the ritual to improve your memory, to be a more discerning human being, to be more kind of more open, to be more loving. So there are just so many rituals that can help you genuinely profit in this world. So it's like me giving you a book on, here's a step-by-step instruction manual on how to be successful in business. So what are you going to do? You're going to follow the instructions, go here, go to this site, and do some marketing here and there. And you follow the plan and you get results. So Veda is like that. It's a book of knowledge. And what we're interested in is the second kind of section. So if I take the word Veda, okay, the first will say karma, kanda, okay, and so that's the ritual section, rituals. And the second, the one that we're interested in, is jnana. Some people say jnana, it's actually jnana. Jnana, because in Sanskrit, a j is always going to be a j. It's never going to be a jna. So it's like that. Jnana kanda. So jnana kanda is the philosophy. In other words, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? What happens after death? and how to, understand things a little bit better, how to kind of make sense of all of this. So this is all very important, because the more this mind does karma kanda, this is the irony, the more the mind does karma kanda, what happens to its maturity level, to its discernment? It starts to increase more and more and more and more. And it comes to a point and it says, this is wonderful, necessary, but there's some yearning for deeper questions of life. And it automatically, it's an inbuilt system, it just automatically starts to little by little start these deeper questions, and it starts to take interest in jnana kanda. What is the meaning of life? What am I doing here? What happens, after I die? What's the point of living? What's the highest use of my kind of time on earth? So this question starts to then kind of ruminate in one's mind. And this second section is also called Upanishads. Upanishad. Okay, so actually I'll write it into 3 syllables, like this. Upa. Ni. And it's actually sad, but due to sandhi, it's shad. So Upanishad. Okay? So the first word, which means near, very near. So how near? Well, look at this. How near is this to you? It's nearer than the wall. How near is your hand in front of you? It's nearer than the pen. How near is your body to you? Okay, it's getting nearer. How near is your thought? Your thought is nearer than your body, is it not? How near are you to yourself? Even nearer than your thought. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So the question is now, what is the nearest of the nearest? Never mind this near, or my hand near, or my shirt near, or my body near, or my thought near. What is even nearer than your thought? I am. Because I'm still there. The thought is yet to come 5 minutes from now. I'm here now. That thought that's going to come 5 minutes from now, it will come and I'm going to be identified with it. Go, oh, I can't be without this thought. You were without this thought totally fine 5 minutes ago. Therefore, you, the presence, are even nearer than the thought that is yet to come 5 minutes from now. In that sense, it's quite far away, isn't it? Therefore, upa means near. Okay, how near? Nearest of the nearest. Ni means it's a short for nishchayatmika. I'll just put like nishchayatmika. This is just a fancy Sanskrit word for firm, like very, very firm, like core, firmly yanked. There's no sense of discrepancy, no sense of vagueness. And the word shad is actually sad. So if I take this away, this little sh, not sh for shu, it's actually s. But we have this special concept called sandhi, so against this sh. So just basically sad, this is a root. And sad means 2 things. It means to destroy. And another one is to reach. And the third one, this is all Sanskrit words because you always got 20 meanings per word, means to sit. Sit. So 3 words: destroy, reach, and sit. So now, what can you make out of that word? Upanishad. You can create quite a bit of things out of that. But we'll create 2 things. We can say, what does Upanishad, what does Jnana Kanda do for you? It is that knowledge which destroys ignorance, which allows you to firmly ascertain that which is the nearest of the nearest to you, which is Atma. Atma. Okay? The knowledge which destroys ignorance, which allows you to ascertain firmly, not kind of, oh, I kind of get it, firmly, what is the nearest of the nearest to you right now. The second definition is, so that's the philosophical, that's called the implied meaning of Upanishad. That's called in Sanskrit lakshyartha. Now there's vachyartha, the direct meaning, which is sit near, sit down, because ni is also prefix for down. Okay, you can put ni for down. So sit near down. Sit near down together. Who are you sitting near down? The rishis. Like you're doing now. You're sitting near down. The rishi, the teacher, or whatever. So these are the two words. Now the question is, this Upanishad, what does it do for me? Okay, great philosophical meaning. What does it do for me, the one that's listening? It shows you the nature of I am. Clearly, firmly, without any discrepancy whatsoever. That's specifically what it's made for. That's the only purpose of the Upanishad. And the I am happens to be the truth of everything. The whole universe. So if you understand I am, you've understood everything at once. That knowledge, knowing which, I know everything at once. Chandogya Upanishad. So the question is now, what place does the Bhagavad Gita have in this tradition? Well, the Bhagavad Gita is a discussion between Krishna and Arjuna, and Krishna is sharing with Arjuna the exact same knowledge of the Upanishad, just in a more dialogue form. This is why we relate, because it's a beautiful dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. And this is why at the end of every chapter of the Gita, we say, Om Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Tsu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, and then the chapter name, right? In other words, the knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita is the exact same knowledge as in the Upanishads. So if you're studying the Bhagavad Gita, you're also studying all of the Upanishads put together. The entire karma, the Jnana Kanda you're studying. So this means nothing is excluded. This is why the Gita is so popular, because it's really a text, not only it's a beautiful discussion between Krishna and Arjuna, but it's also the highest philosophical knowledge. So this whole thing, war and everything, this is just an incidental story. Because suppose the Bhagavad Gita was suppose Arjuna was an accountant. Okay? Now, accountant has to fill out the forms. How much is that going to penetrate to the society? That kind of a story. Krishna teaches an accountant. The moment you have a story about war, what happens? And you make that war huge, what happens? That story in our humanity survives for centuries. That is how we make things survive on earth. War. So whether the story is real, whether it happened or not, that's not the discussion. The discussion is, the point is, it made its way through all ages. And we benefit. So whoever wrote that story, they already knew what touches our being so much that it survives through centuries. Make it about a war. Now, the Bhagavad Gita, what is so special about it? Why is it so popular? Because it has Arjuna. And Arjuna, what kind of a man is he?
Righteous.
He is?
Righteous.
Righteous, he is.
Like us.
Yeah, he is.
Seeker.
Warrior.
He is.
Warrior.
Warrior. What else is he?
A good man.
Huh?
A good person.
A good person, yeah, righteous, yeah.
A confused person.
Yeah, which is exactly why I relate to Arjuna. What else is he?
He was confused.
He was successful. He was very successful and privileged in life. He had all of the goodies that we can ever hope for. He had a lovely wife. He had 4 brothers who all share different traits. And because it's associated, they're as though his. And that's a beautiful feeling to be in. You know, your brothers, it's like my brothers, You feel so proud. You have a kingdom. You got Pandu. Pandu is your father who died, but you're still in this huge, influential place. So you got everything going for you, and yet he's still confused. And that's exactly what we relate with. Because we can have a business, we can have friends, we can have lovely relationships, we can have everything in life, and yet he still posed two universal questions to Krishna. The first, he said, "Oh Krishna, I am confused. Help me. I don't know how to come out of this situation. It's a very unique situation, right? I have challenges in life, and we all have challenges in life." And the second question he asked was more philosophical. So the first question was more how to deal with life, karma kanda, and the second is what is that knowledge? What would I have to know that will give me permanent fulfillment? Not some temporary side, band-aid. I want permanent fulfillment. Now, who is outside these two questions? I want to solve my situational problems, and I want to solve the beginningless problem of my nature. Who am I? What am I doing here? Am I just this 80-year-old person who gets born, dies, and that's it? No more. Forgotten like a leaf that fell off the tree. That's not what we want. Inside we know there is something much larger than me, than this person, but I can't get to it. And that's painful. That's what causes that search. We all have it. And until that pain is resolved, seeking doesn't stop. Therefore, Arjuna was smart enough to recognize that pain and ask Krishna for help. And Krishna gladly responded to him. And he taught him the knowledge, and he said, Arjuna, before you understand this knowledge, what do you have to do? The karma kanda philosophy, you have to clear up your mind. As we said with the buckets, the bucket water is shaky, murky, dirty, the sun is shining, I don't know, what is it? Is it the bulb that's reflecting? Is it the light? What is it? I'm confused. Therefore, that bucket of water with dirty water has to be cleaned up. We need to put some chlorine of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge chlorine, clean it up. And that's not easy. It takes some time because we've got years of indoctrinations from life. Okay. Now, one thing I want to mention about the Gita is that when it's taught in three modes. And I want us to get this clear because some people would teach the Gita with Advaita mentality. Now, what is duality? If you teach Gita in dualistic terms, what does that mean? What does that look like? Okay, I'll show you. So we've got Advaita school. This is a big school, Advaita. And then we've got Vishishta Advaita. And then we've got Advaita. Okay? So Advaita means duality. What they say is they will bring three terms: the person, the world, and Ishvara. So we've got Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. Jiva, Jagat. This is just basic terms, by the way. I'm not giving you an academic study. This is just a general introduction. This is kind of the essentials. And Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. Okay, so whatever school you study, you're going to have, this kind of basic introduction. So basically, Jiva means the person. What kind of person? Person. Okay? Jagat basically means universe. And Ishvara means the cause. Cause of the universe and the person. Okay? So now what Advaita says is that Krishna is, Ishvara. And you and I are all different. So Ishvara is different from Jagat. Jagat is different from Jiva. Jiva is different from Ishvara. The whole thing's different. And sometimes Ishvara is away. We call this heaven. Common thing, right? Ishvara is away. And one day I will go to God somewhere, at some place, and I am different from you. There's no connection between us. I am one being, you're another being. Now, what kind of an orientation could this build in your life if you kind of look at life like this? God is away, I am different from the universe, and I am different from you. What kind of an effect could this have?
Survival mode. Survival mode.
Survival mode, yeah. Me. What else could it do? Fear, yeah, fear competition. More for me. There's no consequences. What else could it do? If I'm totally separate from you, loneliness, excellent. So a sense of isolation, no one to turn to. Yeah, a belief, and maybe a belief too. You know, maybe there's a God. Okay. Now the second one is Vishishta Advaita. Same thing. The only difference is that so Vishishta Advaita, you can take the ocean, the whole ocean, okay, and the waves, and you are one of the waves, and you are eternally different from the ocean. So everything is within Ishvara, but we are eternally different from Ishvara. And what this does is it creates a sense of, it can create a very nice kind of devotion. For example, Ishvara is my guide. Ishvara is my parent. Ishvara is my savior. Ishvara is my mom, my dad. So it's a beautiful relationship that you can have at Vishishta Advaita. Now most schools will stop there. And they will a lot of spiritual seekers will think it's talking about Advaita, but it's not. Okay? So now what difference does Advaita have that the Vishishta Advaita doesn't? What variable does it add? It adds one more variable, and that is, we say, we don't entirely deny the differences. So we call it as Jiva Bheda. Bheda means difference. Jiva Jagat Bheda, that means difference between Jiva and Jagat, and Jiva Ishvara Bheda, Jiva, whatever Bheda, they're all just different. Now in Advaita, we don't entirely deny the Bheda, the differences. Because how can I say now that this person is exactly the same as this person? Can't say that. The features are different, the minds are different, the thoughts are different. There's so much differences. We don't deny it, but we say, hey, within the ocean, what connects both the wave and what's the truth of both the wave and the entire ocean? The water. At the level of the water, there's only oneness. At the level of Jiva, another Jiva, there are differences. At the level of the ocean, there are differences. But ultimately, through analysis, I recognize there is only oneness. So now, what kind of an effect could this have in your life? Like living. When you recognize that you're never away from the only thing that is. Satisfaction?
Peace. Peace. Peaceful.
Peace.
You feel connected.
You feel connected. Interconnections. I'm never apart from this whole thing. Isolation goes away. A sense of no one to turn to, that goes away. Living in the world of there's no one to help me out. This dissipates. So we're not just talking about academic here. We're talking about transformation of how we live. It all depends on what I understand. One little shift and your composure, your life changes. One shift. One thing I want to say is that chapter 12 will talk about Ishvara, and Atma Bodha talks about Brahman. So why is it called now Atma Bodha? Because Atma and Brahman, they're the same words. Now why do they use so many words? Because if you just say Brahman, Atma, Atma, you get bored. Okay? So this means that they use words to kind of keep us entertained. That's why we use so many words for one reality. Okay. So let's go to verse 1. Any questions you want to say?
Regarding relationships, you told in Vishishta Advaita that you can have a beautiful relationship. In Dvaita also you can have that.
Exactly. So this means very good. So this means, what's the difference between devotion in Vishishta Advaita and Advaita? Does someone want to try this? They're both excellent devotional means. But what's the difference between devotion in Vishishta Advaita and Advaita? Okay, let me put it into a positive form. Here, you still feel like you are, like I've discovered the ocean. That's all that I need to do. I am, part of the ocean. I found the ocean. It's still a beautiful relationship. There's no sense of smallness in Vishishta Advaita. However, when you devote here, you are excluding forms. You have to devote to some Ishvara, some kind of an idea of Ishvara. Because all these forms are different from, right? They're not the whole thing. So this means I have to I'm a little bit forced to have this idea what Ishvara is, and I'm devoting to that Lord. Oh Lord. But what about this? What about everything else? What about forms here, the tree, the bird, the cloud, the sun? What about that? So that is what Advaita adds. Because in Advaita, if all that is here is one, if water is through and through the bird wave, the tree wave, the sky wave, the hair wave, the nail wave, the person wave, then I can devote to anything. Devoting to one form, I am simultaneously devoting to and acknowledging the presence of the one truth through and through all things at once. Therefore, what kind of devotion does it become? Non-dual devotion. If you want to devote to a cockroach, that is up to you. But since we're not that much into cockroaches, what do we devote to? We devote for Shiva in a form of the One. Saraswati in a form of the One. Durga, which is the One. Ganapati, which is the One. Different personalities. That's all they are. Why so many gods? 1 million gods or whatever. Because they're all representations. They're all waves through and through, penetrated by the water. They all depend on the one water. Therefore, there's no confusion in Advaita. Great, I can devote to anything. Okay, verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha. I removed the sandhi, therefore I'm not going to chant, I'm going to read. Arjuna Uvacha. Evam satata yuktaha ye bhaktaha tvam paryupasate ye cha api aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. So Arjuna here is asking, who is a lover of the truth, he's asking, Krishna, should we contemplate on the nature of Brahman, or should we enter into a relationship with Ishvara? Great question. Ishvara means cause of the universe. In other words, should we bring Ishvara into every aspect of our life by redefining, our relationship with the world, with, how we see people, how we treat people, treating our emotions right, getting our psychology in order? Should we, get rid of blaming and negativity and skepticism and get rid of this all or nothing thinking and catastrophizing and assumptions and expectations and get our life in order and become a good discerning human being and make sure that we are keeping with the laws and adhering, doing what needs to be done, and we are bringing dharma into our life and becoming a contributor in life, becoming a discerning, hardworking, honest human being? Which one should we do? Quite a question. In other words, should we bring Ishvara into our life so that we clean up our minds so that we can understand Brahman completely? We can understand the final truth completely. Should we do that, or can we just go straight to Brahman and skip all of the stuff that I said? In other words, should we focus on the water, or should we acknowledge the presence of the ocean, which doesn't exclude the water, by the way? Now, what does Krishna say? He says, Arjuna, they're not two separate pursuits. In other words, the wave cannot say, I am water. Listen to this. The wave cannot say, I am water, and yet still relate to other waves in the old fashion, just like anyone else. Because what does that mean? The wave is just claiming I am the truth and yet still relating to other waves, to other people, in the same manner as everyone else is. In the same old manner, disrespecting, judging people, bringing them down, putting opinions onto things, impulsive thinking, lack of emotional management. What does that say? The wave hasn't got it. Because if the wave has really understood its truth as the water, what's going to happen to its behavior automatically? It's going to change. In fact, not at once, because it's in the process of understanding. Therefore, we cannot say, I am Brahman, I am the final thing, and yet our behavior, our ways of looking at the world, our ways of thinking about those around us is exactly the same as it was 5 years ago, as it was a year ago. There has to be a change, because in fact, it's not a has to. The change itself shows you that there is a genuine transformation, a genuine evolution. In other words, we cannot go outside these laws because the laws are always in effect. They're always working, showing how much more work there is to do. So this means where we see a chaotic world, let's bring Ishvara a little bit more, where you and I see a chaotic world, in actuality, like what do I mean by chaotic world? Random world, unfair world, a world, where politicians who are not completely honest, they can rise to power. Unfair world. People who can sell, whatever, drugs and get away with it for years and years, and here you are working so hard, honest, and not even earning, 1/10 of what they're doing. Unfair world. So where people see an unfair world, actually, there's an infallible order behind the whole thing that you cannot cheat, because you may not see them, kind of have their fair share of consequences now, but they will definitely have their consequences years later, lifetimes later, because the laws are still operating. No one can cheat the laws. I can say gravity doesn't exist. Gravity doesn't exist. Don't drop gravity. Don't drop. Don't dare drop. Gravity doesn't care about my statement, whether I'm Indian, European, or who drops it. The laws operate irrespective of what we want to think about them. So where we see a chaotic world, there is actually an infallible order that never fails. And in that order, there are forms. There are intelligently put together forms like your body right now, which is governed by those laws, such as the biological order, chemical order, physical order, the law of dharma, what is the right thing to be done, the law of consequence, the law of karma, genetic order. All of these laws are operable right now. This is because of the presence of Ishvara. So Ishvara manifests as the laws and the forms that are governed by those laws. It's doing that right now. Okay? So the essence of this verse wants to say that before we understand the final reality, we need to re-understand our relationship with the world. And this re-understanding is an ongoing thing. It's not like attend 1 year and then I've done it. It's an ongoing thing, re-understanding, looking deeper into my stories, into my, all the bubbles, the personal bubbles that are there, holding themselves, wanting to stay alive so desperately. That has to be popped. So it doesn't matter how old a person is, how much experience they've got. There's always more bubbles to pop. Otherwise, this reality remains a kind of a distant thing. Like Ishvara's over there, and I'm like, I'm protecting myself. So the first step is we have to, the complaints have to go down, the judgments have to go down, kind of this, thinking of I'm going to get back at him or her, that has to go down. Self-righteousness, that has to go away. The sense of I don't care, it's all just what awareness, it's all just transient. That has to go. That rubbish has to go away. The stuff of being spiritual, Mr. Spiritual, this is also rubbish. In fact, there's a nice 4-stage process that the Vedanta says how a person of maturity goes through life. And I'll say them now because it was it touched me. The first stage is that we start out in life like a victim. People are there to get me. It's my fault. I am, this bad person. God is punishing me. Nothing's working. So it's like me. I'm being punished. Nothing's working. The laws are out there to get me. This is how we all start out. Victim mode. Feeling sorry for oneself. Self-pity, angry, resentful, holding it all in. And then we go away from the world and we retreat. We go introverted style. Why? Because now you want to collect yourself. You want to kind of get to know yourself a little bit better. And then you start to reflect upon things. And most people think this is the last stage of your journey, where you've now retreated from the world, you've gotten rid of things, you're no longer it's a simple life now. It's a simple life. Very simple, no complications. Most people stop there. This is only the second stage, where the person introverts themselves and thinks and gets their stuff in order, and they're working on me, my emotions, my mind, my life, being a good person. All of this is second stage only. The third stage is out of that maturity that took place, you go back into the world with ordinary people, no longer carrying the spiritual complex. The spiritual complex is gone. No more kind of, let me stand out, let me be a spiritual person. That's gone. That was stage 2. People don't recognize you. Say, who are you? You're just a worker. You're just a, ordinary. Yeah, I am. Because that stuff, stage 2, I grew up. I don't need to show myself the spiritual person anymore. Final stage. Now that you're back in the world and you are not afraid to show yourself, to give your gifts to the world, you then go and share. Because you're coming out of fullness. You've taken care of your own stuff, your own deficiencies, inadequacies, and anger issues, and resentments, and judgments, and fears, and childhood issues. You can't. You're not good enough. You're not lovable. People will reject you. You're a small person. All this voice has been relatively sorted out. And you're enough ready to go and share with the world what you have learned. That's the last stage. So there's no question of this, staying in any stage. It's just a constant. And these 4 stages, who sets them up? Do you and I set these stages up? No. These 4 stages are Ishvara's setup. No one is outside of Ishvara. And I know you're connecting to what I'm saying, because you're not outside Ishvara. If you're shaking your head, it means that you are very much understanding these laws already. We just bring them out and you go, wow, interesting. I've never thought of it that way. But you're not resisting, because there's something in you that's clicking and understanding where this is coming from. That's all the Vedas are. They just point out what is already true.
Is it possible to judge which stage we are at present?
I mean, which state we are in. Maybe a little profile test, right? I don't know. It's a personal, it's a personal thing. I mean, there's no kind of, if I don't go to the 4th stage, I'm not developed. This is not what I'm saying. It's good that you brought that up. Most stay at level 3, level 2, even level 2, level 3. It's fine. You can still know the reality at level 2 or level 3, right? But in the utopian world, in the perfect world, it would be a constant, sincere development. There will be no sense of, now I'm fine, I'm introverted, and then go and teach or something. You want to give the most you can to the people, right? Otherwise, you're sort of cutting them short. You're not really delivering maximum benefits. Verse 2. Now let's define Ishvara. Verse 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So Bhagavan speaks. Mai aveshya manaha ye mam nitya yuktaha upasate shraddhaya paraya upetaha te me yuktamaha mataha. Okay, so here Krishna is referring to himself as the word me. Okay? And this me is referring to Ishvara, not Brahman. How do we know? Because this is context of chapter 12. We know it's Ishvara. So now what is Ishvara? I'm going to get to that. So now he wants to help Arjuna, help you and I relate to Ishvara. Why does he want to do that? So that we can understand fully the final reality, Brahman. Okay. So let me ask a question. Firstly, why is relating to Ishvara important? Why do you think relating to Ishvara is important? Like, why? Why should I? Knowledge of reality, yeah? Why else do we have to relate to, and understand, reorient ourselves and get our, life in order?
To align myself with the laws of life. Right.
And what would that do for us? Aligning ourselves to the laws of life.
Make your mind neutral and it's uplifting.
Make it more equanimous, more objective, more discerning. Right. Okay. See, in life, we start out, as a human being who goes and we get disappointed very early on. We, have these goals and aspirations, and we get very quickly things are not working out as I want them, And the world is now unfair, people are not treating me well. I'm getting bullied in school. Parents are not, giving me what I want. I am, sort of not the popular kid in school. Can we relate to this? Okay. Now, on top of this, we see ourselves and we go, I'm small. And on top of that smallness, we go, this is what this means. I'm not a good person, I am a weak person. All of these things start to add up in our conclusions of ourselves. So what kind of a person does this create by the time you're 15 or 16 or 18 or 20? A rebel. Yeah, trying to find oneself in this world, trying to be someone, trying to, bring some love into one's life. Okay, a lot of things like this happen. And then on top of that, people also tell their stories, and it reinforces your sense of me, competition, me against you. So it just reinforces individuality. That's how the world is built. Doesn't matter what country you're from. That's going to happen. Now, what does this lead to? Disappointment? Discontent?
Feeling of less.
Yeah, feeling less. Yeah, feeling inferior. Yeah,
Not good enough.
not good enough. Yeah, not believing in oneself. Okay, so the consequences are huge. It's not a small thing. And what's the quickest way to get out of this sense of smallness, especially if one's suffering in a bad way? What's the quickest way to get out of this in spirituality? I mean, spirituality itself becomes an escape, doesn't it? Establish yourself in awareness. Look at that. Pain in my life, things are not working out. Oh, I found the reality. Let me just go there. That's a safe place. And yet, I can't get there without first relating to Ishvara. Seen this so many times where people love Vedanta as a coping mechanism. And it's not meant to be a coping mechanism. I am meant to get my life in order first, relate with Ishvara, bring Ishvara into my life, basically Vishishta Advaita, through that stage. Then I can start to bring in the final reality, Advaita. It's a stage. Dvaita, that's how you start out. I'm a small person, a nobody, everything's away from me. Then we mature up, we go into Vishishta Advaita. Now I'm relating, I'm loving God. I'm worshiping, I'm going to the temple. Everything's an expression of God. Everything's within God's order. Life becomes so much better. And you become, through that, mature enough to bring in the final reality. So now, what is Ishvara? Like when we say Ishvara means the cause of the universe. Okay? In one simple sentence, cause of the universe. What caused the universe? Ishvara is intelligence which is manifesting as the laws, such as the biological order, psychological order, gravity, genetic laws, physiological laws, chemical laws, physical laws. And in those laws, it also manifests as, it intelligently manifests, puts together forms. Rock, elements, the sun, the sky, flesh, iron, gold, air, water. And then it brings those forms together. It intelligently puts them together, and those forms are now working together within these laws. Such as, look, easy, falls down. Form is interacting within the law. Simple as that. If it's hot in here, what's going to happen to your body? It's going to get very hot. Are you doing that? No, it's automatic. That's a law. It automatically kicks in. And it's not only laws and forms, but it is the possibilities that you and I are constantly collapsing, because it's the whole thing. So according to your choices, you collapse certain possibilities. You can say, right now I want to eat. And what's going to happen? You're going to put food into your stomach, and the digestion law is going to start to work. You've made a possibility happen. So Ishvara is always giving you possibilities. And you have to collapse them. When I say collapse, that means make a choice and bring a possibility into my life. Because the whole thing is Ishvara. And the biggest opportunity that Ishvara is presenting is moksha. Now, if I don't have a clear mind, what will I constantly be collapsing within these laws? Toys, right? Whatever. Going out, wealth, it's all fine, but that means I have to now start to ask for bigger things. Do I want to keep on asking for toys, or do I want to ask for the whole thing? Do I want to ask for Ishvara himself? And that takes courage, doesn't it, to say, because sometimes you say, no, I can't ask Ishvara. I'm a small person. I don't deserve it. All stuff starts to come out, doesn't it? From childhood. I don't deserve it, I'm a bad person. So one has to go over that resistance, because that's a mental block. No, Ishvara is intelligence, not that it. So Ishvara, definition of Ishvara is intelligence that is manifesting as the laws and forms which are being governed by those laws.
And I and you, we all are that Ishvara.
Manifestation, one of the manifestations of Ishvara. Just like a wave is one of the manifestations of the whole ocean. Okay? So now you say, where is Ishvara? Where is Ishvara? The whole thing is Ishvara. Your very words that you just spoke to me, those sound waves are Ishvara. Because it's intelligence that's constantly reshuffling and reorganizing itself to manifest as this very moment right now. You think you're looking at a person because we're so used to looking at people and objects. That's where our vision stops, face. Vedanta shows you, when I see your face, I see your face and more. Ishvara, intelligence manifesting as this face. Otherwise, you stay constantly in forms, form. It just never ends. So we're not talking about academic, we're talking about a life transformation. Relating differently, I'm relating to Ishvara. I'm relating to the whole thing right now. And this takes practice. Oh, I just heard the word practice. This takes practice because we're so used to forms. And I want to show you, hopefully, that by the end of the course, there's so much more to now, this moment, than just forms. Otherwise, we're talking future. I don't care about future or the past. I'm talking about now. Walking in the park is no longer walking in the park. I'm seeing through the trees, through the birds. There is intelligence manifesting everywhere. As the tree, as the bird, as this person who's looking at the bird. as a thought, which is having some kind of an impression about the beauty of the sunshine, that thought too is a manifestation of Ishvara. And me going, oh, I have a thought, that inquiry too is Ishvara. Did you choose your body before birth? If you did, you probably would have made some customizations, right? Taller, right? Stronger, more beautiful, want to look younger. Why not? Why is your body like this? Because it's within Ishvara's laws. You don't select. And that body that is born is governed by psychological laws. If I make a loud sound, a jolt, it's automatic. Response, cause, effect. You don't choose it, it just happens. Milk teeth, what time do they fall out? Year 5 or 6. Pregnancy, month 9. Who chooses that? Can you say, no, I feel like month 15? No, because it's Ishvara's design. It's all set up, which within we are participants, and we're just kind of going, wow, this is how it is. Honeycomb structure, amazingly strong honeycomb structure. We take that and we go, oh, let's borrow that from Ishvara, copyright that, put it in our laptops, or make strong structures. The V formation of the birds. Why do they fly in a V? Why not the Z? Because the V happens to reduce the drag for the bird behind, 10 to 15% more. Did they read a book about this? They didn't read a book. It's inbuilt. Intelligence operating through the bird. Oh, we see, bird. And yet, the whole thing is Ishvara's design. When you study education, physics, when you study geography and science and astronomy, what are you studying? You're studying analysis into Ishvara. And that's why we have so much knowledge around an ophthalmologist who studies the eye. 5-10 years of study, just the retina of the eye. Because there's so much knowledge just in the eye itself. That's why we say Ishvara is intelligence. That's all you ever study. A doctor looks at you, what do they see? They see body, but they also see, things are like this. They see intelligence, they see the connections. You and I, we just see a body. A doctor sees much more than a body. A good doctor sees intelligence. Any topic that you know well, you will see much more than just a topic. You will see, you will see connections. You will see the intricacies. When we build bridges and we get feedback from Ishvara that the bridge is now holding straight and holding strong, what is that? That's feedback from Ishvara telling you, you have successfully aligned to my physical laws. You have made this bridge hold itself. That's Ishvara's feedback. When you plant a seed in the ground and you put water on the seed and the seed grows, what are you doing? You're activating Ishvara's laws. You're causing that seed to sprout through your action.
And it might not also sprout because his wish.
Yeah, your thoughts.
No, the seed might not also sprout even if you put all the efforts.
Yeah.
Because that's his wish. Ultimately, it's Ishvara's wish. It's not letting this. It doesn't want this seed to sprout. Suppose that seed does not sprout.
I mean, I don't know if that's possible.
Of course,
It is
so
possible.
many seeds. Like all the seeds you put, they always sprout. It's not possible. No? Some seeds don't sprout.
Maybe if you put it in a different kind of soil, they don't sprout. Maybe.
But do all the seeds sprout?
No, sometimes next to each other they don't sprout. Yes.
They don't sprout. That is also his wish.
Yeah. Now, what do? We
The
go.
soil is not fertile enough.
No,
that's the reason.
no, it's not necessary. Even with fertile soil, maybe you have put 10 numbers of 10 seeds, and maybe 1 or 2 might not sprout. Whatever the reason.
Yeah. Okay. And also, what I want to say is interesting because now what do? We observe that phenomena and we say, I have to now align myself to Ishvara's laws and maybe put the seeds farther apart.
Yes.
So this means we have to work with Ishvara's laws to benefit from that. That's why we say we can't cheat the system. working with Ishvara's laws for your own benefits. It's not there to hurt you, it's there to help you. That's why our whole journey has been about working with the laws, working with Ishvara, because Ishvara manifests as the laws. That's why I need Ishvara, because the laws is Ishvara. Even a scientist or an atheist who studies science, they may not call it Ishvara. But they're still studying Ishvara. They just call it whatever, they call it wind or tornado or something.
The field.
Yeah, the field.
Quantum physica, we're busy with quantum physica.
Yeah.
And how can you manage and attract, like the law of attraction?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They will use these words. Yeah. And
Still, we have devotion for that profession.
the what?
They have awe and devotion.
They have awe. They have
for
awe.
their profession.
Yeah. When they go, wow.
Yeah.
What are they saying wow to? They're saying wow to Ishvara. They just don't call it that. Whether they believe they will go to heaven. Suppose a person writes a book, there's no God, there's no heaven. Guess what? And suppose you do a lot of philanthropy, good works. You still go into heaven. Whether you believe in heaven or not, laws don't care whether I believe in gravity or not. Laws always work. According to the Vedas, there are worlds. And if I do good, I'm going to those worlds. I'm going to heaven. So even if I don't believe in heaven, I'm still going to heaven. You're like, wow, I wrote 50 books on New York Times bestsellers, how there's no heaven, and I'm now in heaven. The laws don't care. Maybe I should go down and get those books unpublished.
Have you started writing for your book to be published?
No,
I think you must.
no, I haven't.
Think about it.
Some articles, but no book.
Is it not like that humans always, with kind of technology, try to challenge the laws?
Who's challenging the laws?
I don't know if for example, rain or heat, or you can with technology challenge the laws, no?
You can't challenge the laws, but you still cannot. You can kind of challenge gravity, and you can use the anti-gravity. You can find out how much G-force you need to escape the Earth's atmosphere. So you're working. So in that sense, you can say you're challenging, but it's more like I'm working with the laws. Yeah.
Try to copy some of them, or
Even that. But you're still copying them within the law of gravity, within the law of breathing, and having to use air to survive.
The law will not change.
The law won't change for you. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but law still won't change for you. Ishvara is also cause and effect relationship. For example, they say the cyanobacteria, a couple of billions of years ago, was responsible for the first photosynthesis process, which heavily contributed to oxygen production and thereby making our atmosphere now breathable. Thanks to whom? Thanks to, cyanobacteria, little creatures under a microscope, billions of them together, contributing to the oxygen that you and I are now breathing. We are here because of bacteria, billions of years ago. Cause-effect relationship. Dinosaurs, extinction led to mammals. We are now because the dinosaurs went away. After we go, who knows? But it's a continuity, cause-effect relationship. A tornado, you say, oh, tornado, but what is a tornado? Tornado is high wind. How does high wind get generated? Because there's a pressure difference between one area and another area. What creates a pressure difference of air? Different temperatures, the surface temperature. This temperature is different from this temperature, creating a different air pressure. What creates temperature of the ground? The sun. Sun, temperature, air pressure, wind, tornado. Look at the whole connection. The whole water cycle. You got sun, precipitation of the water into the sky, right? Condensation of the water falling down. plants now say yummy to that water. And they give you fruit that ends up on your dish in the breakfast mode. And you go, yes, I'm now enjoying this, thank you. Water cycle, sun, plants, the whole thing made you say yummy. We're totally oblivious to this. We just go, yeah, let's eat. That's why we pray, to acknowledge these laws that are been working for millennia and will continue to work long after you and I are gone. Because that is devotion. Devotion is not, theoretical knowledge. Devotion is a simple act, like praying before food. Because that changes it brings Ishvara into your life. Okay, now I want to close and say, how do you bring Ishvara into your life? A very simple instruction. Understand first that Ishvara is in the smallest of the smallest particle and manifesting as the biggest of the biggest thing there is. It's in the smallest and it's in the biggest. There's no place where this intelligence is not. The whole thing is intelligence. It's manifesting as the vast cosmos, as the planet, as the earth, as the air you're breathing. You're breathing Ishvara right now. It was a question of going somewhere to vote. You're literally devoting to Ishvara just by putting your focus on air. Time itself is Ishvara. Oh, look, the time is, 5 minutes over. That time is Ishvara. The sense of change. If you want to go to a temple and find Ishvara there, that's fine. But Ishvara is right here in the very air that you and I are breathing. Understand finally that your whole life is totally dependent on Ishvara. Everything you ever do, the knowledge, the ability to remember, the ability to sleep, as we all will, the ability to wake up, the ability to live one more day, the ability to love, the ability to discern, the ability to learn, the ability to hold information, to memorize, to understand, all of that is because of Ishvara. You're totally, totally dependent on this intelligence. And this intelligence is constantly giving you feedback. It's an impersonal order. It's not there to punish us, to give us a hard time, to kind of cheat us. It's impersonal. It just works. Like if I don't believe in gravity and I say, there's no gravity, I go over a building, Ishvara is not going to go, oh, he's a saint, let's save him or her. If there's two people and there's a mosquito and the saint has sweet blood and the thief doesn't, who's the malaria mosquito going to bite? Yeah, the saint who has so much positive effect in a society and the thief is just doing so much damage. Is the mosquito going to go, let me just call Ishvara, who should I bite? The saint is a good person. Can I just kind of change my, taste for saltier blood this time? It doesn't happen. The saint will get malaria and die. The laws are impersonal. They're not there to spare you or save you. They just work impersonally. So there was never a time when you were punished or rewarded. You're simply either aligning yourself to the laws and getting that feedback, or you're out of alignment with the laws and getting feedback. It's simple as that. And these laws you align to, and they bring luck and auspiciousness into your life. That's the whole vision of Bhagavad Gita. Simple as that, through your own free will. And as Jen said, there's also interconnectedness. When you bring Ishvara into your life, then you understand you're connected always to Ishvara. Your partner becomes a living expression of Ishvara. No more just a partner. Now you see much more than that, which is even better now. So even relationships become better. They become a reminder of this intelligence with which you are constantly interacting. No longer, hello, hello partner. No, you're looking at God. in the form of your partner. It's not theory. We're talking reality. So everything becomes much easier, much more, much kind of, you bring oneness into your life. In fact, tomorrow, we're going to speak in verse 3 and 4. How do I bring oneness? How do I understand oneness through Ishvara? Because Ishvara is the crucial link to oneness. And then how do I participate in that oneness by bringing Ishvara into my life? So tomorrow we talk more about Ishvara at a level more practical level. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.